Jaya Radha Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradari Yashoda Nandana Braja Jana Ranjana Yashoda Nandana Braja Jana Ranjana Yamuna Tira Vanachari Yamuna Tira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jai Om Vishnupada Paramahamsa Parivajikachai Ashtodhara Shatashi Srimad Divine Grace Ace Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada Ki Jai Granthiraj Srimad Bhagavatam Ki Jai. All glories to the assembled devotees, all glories to the assembled devotees, all glories to the assembled devotees, all glories to Shri Guru and Shri Gauranga. Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 8, 8th Canto, Withdrawal of the Cosmic Creations. Chapter 2, The Elephant Genders Crisis, Text 32. Please repeat after me. Na mam ime gataya aturam gajaha kutaha karinyaha prabhavanti mochitum grahena Pashena Datur Avrito Pi Api Aham Cha Tam Yami Param Parayanam Namami. What's the Namami me gataya aturam gaja Kuta karinya prabhavanti mochitam Grahena pashena vidatur avrito What is it? Pyaham chatam yami paramparayanam Namami me gyataya aturam gaja Kuta karinya prabhavanti mochitum. Grahena pashena vidatur avrito. Pyaham chatam yami paramparayanam. Namami me gataya aturam gaja. Kuta karinya prabhavanti muchitum. Grahena pashena vidatur avrito. Pyaham chatam yami paramparayanam.
Namami me gyataya aturangaja. Kutakarinya prabhavanti mochitum. Grahena pashena vidhaturavrito. Yaham chatam yami paramparayanam.
Namami me gyataya aturangaja.
Namami me gyataya aturangaja. Kutakarinya prabhavanti mochitum.
Grahena pasena vidhaturavrito. Yaham chatam yami paramparayanam.
Namami me gyataya aturangaja. Kutakarinya prabhavanti mochitum. Grahena pasena vidhaturavrito. Yaham chatam yami paramparayanam. Namami me gyataya aturangaja. Kutakarinya prabhavanti mochitum. Grahena pashena vidhaturavrito. Yaham chatam yami paramparayanam. Namami me gyataya aturangaja. Kutakarinya prabhavanti mochitum. Grahena pashena vidhaturavrito. Yaham chatam yami paramparayanam.
Na, not. Mam, me. Ime, all of these. Gatayaha, friends and relatives, the other elephants. Aturam, in my distress. Kajaha, the elephant. Kutaha, how? Karinyaha, my wives. Prabhavanti, are able. Mochitum, to deliver from this dangerous position. Grahena, by the crocodile. Pashena, by the network of ropes. Vidatuhu, of providence. Avritaha, captured. Api, although I am in such a position. Aham, I. Cha, also. Tam, that. Supreme Personality of Godhead. Yami, take shelter of. Param, who is transcendental. Parayanam, and who is the shelter of even the exalted demigods like Brahma and Shiva. Translation? The other elephants, who are my friends and relatives, could not rescue me from this danger. What then to speak of my wives? They cannot do anything. It is by the will of providence that I have been attained. But, in fact, he is not. For one who thinks that way is only illusioned. At every step, at every moment, there is danger. In modern civilization, one thinks that if he has a nice home and a nice car, that's Sankarshan. If one, in modern civilization, if one thinks he has a nice home and a nice car, his life is perfect. In the Western countries, especially in America, it is very nice to possess a good car. But as soon as one is on the road, there's danger because at any moment an accident may take place and one will be killed. The record actually shows that so many people die in such accidents. Therefore, if we actually think that this material world is a very happy place, this is our ignorance. Real knowledge is that this material world is full of danger. We may struggle for existence as far as our intelligence allows and may try to take care of ourselves, but unless the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna, ultimately saves us from danger, our attempts will be useless. Therefore, Prahlad Maharaj says, do you think you could look this up, Sankarshan? Bhagavatam 7:9-19. What's the Balasyaneya Sharanam? Balasyaneha Sharanam Pitarao Nisingha Nartasya Chagadam Udadanvanti Majato now Taptasya Tat Prativadirya Ihanja Sheshtas Tavad Vibhotanabritam Tavad Pekshitanam. This is from the Bhagavatam 7:9-19. So, did you find it?
You want a translation?
You want to read it? You could read it, Matthias.
I got the mic.
My Lord Nrsingadeva, or O Supreme, because of a bodily conception of life and bodied souls neglect and not care for you, by you cannot do anything for their betterment. Whatever remedies they accept, although perhaps temporarily beneficial, are certainly impermanent. For example, a father and mother cannot protect their child. A physician and medicine cannot relieve a suffering patient on a boat on the ocean. And a boat on the ocean cannot protect a drowning man.
Yeah. We may invent so many ways to be happy or to counteract the dangers of this material world, but unless our attempts are sanctioned by the Supreme Personality of Godhead, they will never make us happy. Those who try to be happy without taking shelter of the Supreme Personality of Godhead are mudhas, rascals. Namam duskritina mudha prapadyante naradama. Those who are the lowest of men refuse to take to Krishna consciousness because they think that they will be able to protect themselves without Krishna's care. This is their mistake. The decision of the king of the elephants, Gajendra, was correct. In such a dangerous position, he sought shelter of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Om Viganitapadandasya Gananjana Shlakaya Chakshulan Maditam Mena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Amakam Makaridavachalam Panam Tegirim Yakipadamaham Vande Shri Gurun Dintanam Vancha Kaptri Bishta Kripa Sindhubevacha Patitanam Pavne Bhyo Vaishnave Bhyo Namo Namaha. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasari Gaura Bhaktavrinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Okay, translation one more time. The other elephants who are my friends and relatives cannot rescue me from this danger. What then to speak of my wives? They cannot do anything. It is by the will of providence that I have been attacked by this crocodile, and therefore I shall seek shelter of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is always the shelter of everyone, even of great personalities. So we could see that this is an extraordinary circumstance. We have King of Elephants here, Gajendra, and crocodile. We don't hear his name, right? Yeah. Yeah. So there's a extraordinary circumstance here in which they are battling each other for 1,000 years. That's extraordinary. And then the king of elephants, he begins to speak. That's another extraordinary thing. Usually elephants don't speak. And also he seems to be a bit of a cultured elephant. He has wives also. He usually don't. What was that? I said he's a cultured elephant. He's a cultured elephant because he has wives. Yeah, he seems like there was a marriage ceremony here also. Yeah, several wives. So, and then we'll hear in the next chapter, which is coming up pretty soon, actually. Actually, I think tomorrow, Govardhan will speak on the last verse of this chapter, and then chapter 3 we'll hear his prayers of Gajendra. So he, as a great soul, as a Mahatma, he has realized that he's in a dangerous situation and that he needs to take shelter of Krishna. And this is the test of a pious soul or a great soul, that when dangers come, they take shelter of Krishna. Of course, every soul ultimately is great, being part and parcel of Krishna. Mamai Vangsho, Jiva Loke, Jiva Bhuta, Sanatana, they're all part and parcel. We're all part and parcel of Krishna. But as we know in material existence, that greatness becomes covered by ignorance. So, but somebody who's a little uncovered by ignorance, or somebody who's pious or fortunate or a great soul, they take shelter of Krishna naturally. And we see that in this world, people, that's what they're doing. They're taking shelter of so many different things, and people and places and so on. Everyone's taking shelter, actually. Because after all, everyone practically understands that this world is a challenging place. It's not that there's a question of one. There's not a question of whether one will be tested or not. One will definitely be tested, maybe on a daily basis. At least one will be tested many times throughout one's life. So when people are tested, they are given an option. They have an option. What do they want to do? What do they want to take shelter of? They call this like coping mechanisms, not coping mechanisms. They call this coping mechanisms. Ways to cope with reality. Ways to deal with difficulties. So what are some coping mechanisms people engage in? Does anybody? I'm sure there's some ideas. What do you think, Sankarshan? How do people cope? Okay, let's start with the Maya ones first. Chant. Let's start with the Maya. Let's start with the Maya coping mechanisms first. Okay, people go to the bar. Yeah, that's a way to cope. You go to the bar. You have your bar family, they call it. Bar family. It's you don't have. There's not much of a family structure, so let's go to the bar and we'll, have our family there. People take shelter of eating. That's another thing. That's true. Drinking, alcohol, eating, sleep, working out. Yeah, that's true. Sankarshan was just telling me there was someone, you were saying there's some guy that you knew and he was working out for like 3 hours a day, and in Sankarshan's opinion that was too much. I don't know. No. Yeah, strong guy. So yeah, eating, drinking, sleeping, watching TV or social media, called like doom scrolling. It's just like endless scrolling, which is, it's interesting how they created that thing, because it's just like, I mean, you just like, you go 30 minutes, an hour, 5, 6 hours, 10 hours, you just scroll, you know. Well, doom scrolling means it's just, it's just like, it's like pointless. It's going nowhere. It's just, it's a doom, you know. It's just like, so yeah, people, there's all different types of, yeah, job, that's true. They become like workaholics, they call it. Just like workaholics, are working all the time. But it's like there's some like coping mechanism just to like forget about the sufferings of the world, you know. Just like forget about it, just like. So practically everybody's doing this. So like coping mechanisms, surfing, yeah. So, yeah, they're surfing the internet, and then they're surfing the ocean, waves. So, devotees, they should learn and cultivate the right coping mechanisms. Learn the art of spiritual coping mechanisms. In other words, instead of taking shelter of, because much of what we just described, all these coping mechanisms, much of it's, yeah, very tamasic, rajasic, and then you just have to somehow or other just like, you know, just distract the mind from the suffering of reality. So instead of that, devotees should take shelter of kirtan, Krishna kirtan, chanting. It's a nice time to just call out to Krishna. You know, mridanga kartals, call out to Krishna. Harinam, call out to Krishna. Devotees could take shelter of Srimad Bhagavatam class, Bhagavad Gita class, scripture, service in general, service to Krishna. There's so many wonderful things to do for Krishna. So if we learn how to take shelter of if we learn how to take proper shelter, then that is our liberation. That is our upliftment. We are disentangled. Whereas we take shelter of the other coping mechanisms, and those are it's just pure entanglement. It's entanglement, and it just continues the cycle, really. It's just not good. As it's called durashaya, it's a bad shelter. And this is what, yeah, as Prabhupada says, this is what foolish people do in the material world. They just try to take shelter of all of these things that aren't really worth taking shelter of. Like it's going to, you know, fully satisfy them or something. And Prabhupada talks about car here, right, Sankarshan? You get a nice new car, 2025, what, 2025 Toyota, you know, nice, black, shiny, you know. I mean, you got to be paying for the next 4 years. That's, you know, that's okay, but you get that, and okay, I could understand. I don't want to be, you know, overly critical towards. You know, it's what people have to take shelter of. They need something to be excited about. one young man, he showed us his car last night in Ocean Beach, and he's very excited about it. I mean, he came up and he was playing kirtan, so that was very nice. You know. And he's a nice person, so I don't, overly critical or something. But I mean, Prabhupada's making the point here. It's just not going to satisfy us. I mean, it doesn't fully satisfy us. And whatever that may be, it might not be a car that somebody wants, but somebody wants something else. There's always stuff to want in the world. That's why the consumer world is a very what's that word? Profitable business to be in, because people are always wanting stuff. So if you could just create something nice or sell something nice, you always get customers. But then, as Prabhupada was saying here, we get a nice car or whatever, but it's dangerous. I mean, it's dangerous. Drive on the freeway, that's dangerous actually. Just driving down the street, this is like a little freeway right here on Grand Avenue. People go quite fast. It's dangerous. And practically there's danger at every step. That's what Srila Prabhupada's quoting in this verse, says there's danger at every step. Also danger for in terms of harming the physical body, but there's also danger in terms of harming the subtle body. It's like constant danger, actually. Just like Srila Prabhupada talks about in the 6th canto, he talks about the Jamil and how he went out one day and he saw this, Shudrani and Shudra, this woman and man, they're embracing, and how that just like harmed his subtle body. And then he just couldn't get it out of his mind, this woman. And he just went and he rejected his nice wife. He rejected his parents. First of all, actually, he brought her to the house. That's one thing. He brought that prostitute to the house, and she was like a maidservant there. And then he kicked out his wife and his old parents, and then he was with her says he's having children up into his, until he's 80 or something, and it's sensual, throughout his life, forgetting all about his Brahminical life. Just living a sinful life, really. That was just one instance. I mean, that's what the Bhagavatam says, is just like one time he saw. Like one time. Can you believe that? Because I'm saying there's a lot of danger because, devotees, it's modern civilization. I mean, the last 3 times I went on a walk, I saw, it's like, such scenes. When I was walking with Sankashan, the last few times, I think we're not going to walk that route anymore. Yeah, we're not going to. But so there's danger at every step. It's a dangerous world. So therefore, understanding that, devotees understand that. Therefore, understanding that, they make a humble effort, they make a strong effort to take shelter of Krishna. And then they're protected. Krishna protects them. Just like Haridas Thakur, he was protected in 2 ways. One was there was that envious ruler who wanted to defame him by sending a woman to seduce him. So he was protected on that way. Krishna protected him. He was taking shelter of Krishna, the holy name of Krishna. He was protected. He didn't fall in Maya. He didn't fall for that temptation. And then, when he was being threatened to be killed, And he was actually beat, not just threatened, he was beat in 22 marketplaces. And then eventually, he wasn't dying, and then the guard said, "Oh, you're not dying." And then Haridas Thakur said, "Oh, well, is that bothering you?" and the guard said, "Yes, if you don't die, if we don't kill you, then the Qazi is going to be angry, he's going to kill us." Very selfish guys, right? And then Haridas Thakur said, "Okay, I'll die," and he went into samadhi, like he was dead. And then they asked the Qazi what to do. And they said, "Don't bury him because he'll become a place of pilgrimage. Throw him in the river." So they threw him in the river, and he was floating down Haridas Thakur, and then eventually came out of his samadhi, and then he continued chanting Hare Krishna, went on the bank. And there were severe reactions for the Qazi and the whole town, actually. But then later, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and the Mahaprakash, when Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was revealing his godhood, he was giving devotees different benedictions. For example, Murari Gupta, who was a physician and a devotee of Ramchandra, and actually he was Hanuman. So when he came up, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he revealed, he's Hanuman, and you could see like the monkey soldiers on, they're appearing in the room, and Murari Gupta, started developing a tail and all this, and Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was transforming her into Ramchandra. So like that, there's different. Sridhar was given certain benedictions. So Haridas Thakur was there, and Haridas Thakur, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu revealed to Haridas Thakur, he said, "Yes, when you were being beaten by those Muslims rulers, I was going to go there immediately with my chakra and just kill them. I was going to go there and kill them all. But because you were praying for their deliverance, I didn't. My chakra was powerless. I couldn't go and kill them." But he said, he said, "I wanted to show you my back." And then Chaitanya Mahaprabhu showed his back, and there was all those marks from the beating of those rulers. So in this way, Krishna protected, or Chaitanya Mahaprabhu protected Haridas Thakur. Of course, this is Haridas Thakur, and it's a special circumstance. But Krishna protects us in different ways. And ultimately, the body has to end at one point, but Krishna, we have faith and we have the understanding that Krishna protects us spiritually. That's the best protection. But whatever plans we make, unless they're sanctioned by Krishna, will not be successful. Just like here in the 7th canto is being mentioned, how there may be a boat, but and a very great captain, right? We have that historically. What was that? Titanic, right? A very strong boat, great captain, but if it's destined to sink, it's going to sink. You might have a very qualified physician, but the physician cannot save a young child if the child's destined to not live, or someone else is destined not to live. What else was there? A boat, child, and I think there was one more. Boat, child.
Parents?
Oh, parents. Yeah, parents may be able to or want to protect their children, but sometimes not possible. So we see this is the challenge in the material world. So understanding that, devotees take shelter of Krishna, and they don't try to be happy without taking shelter of Krishna, like the mudhas or like the rascals, as this purport's saying. Mudhas, rascals, they try to take shelter. They try to be happy without Krishna. Now, of course, it's hard unless we're 100% pure or at least advanced. It's very difficult to get away from this tendency to try to be happy without Krishna. So if you want to call it like a rascal tendency, it's a rascal tendency to try to be happy without Krishna. It's difficult to get away from that. That's the tug of war with Maya. But again, slowly but surely, just as the king of elephants, he made a decision that, yes, I'm going to take shelter of Krishna. I'm in a dangerous situation, I'm going to take shelter of Krishna. So similarly, we need to make that decision that, yes, we need to have that understanding that this world is difficult, it's dangerous, and therefore the best course is for me to take shelter of Krishna, and then we should engage in that. And just as Gajendra offers his prayers, we should offer our prayers regularly for the protection of Krishna from the illusory energy. All right, does anybody have any question?
A question.
Okay.
Just like about the last thing you said, and like, why should we pray for protection if our destiny is gonna be like something, like, you know, like being like injured or something? So why should we pray like for changing that if that's just how it's gonna be?
Yeah. Well, the idea is that a devotee's life is in the hands of Krishna once they surrender to Krishna. So we may be destined to experience certain karmic things, means our body may be destined to experience certain things, or our mind, and so on, or certain difficulties. But a devotee's main prayer is not for it's not really at all for the protection of the physical body. It's for the protection of their Krishna consciousness. Just like Srila Prabhupada was praying, and someone asked him, "What are you praying for?" And he said, "I'm praying to Srimati Radharani that I don't fall down into illusion." And then the devotee said, "Well, Prabhupada, we thought you could never fall down." And he said, "Well, because I'm always praying that for that protection." So the main protection that a devotee, or the real protection that a devotee prays for, is that Krishna protects their Krishna consciousness, or their desire to serve Krishna. So, and that's not. We all have a choice at every moment. Do we want to be Krishna conscious or not? So, it's not that it's, you could say, predestined. Okay, Sankarshan?
Yeah, sorry. I just had a question about, you're saying how people have different coping mechanisms, and then how devotees should take like shelter of chanting and reading. And then I had a question about, let's say,
or services too.
Yeah, services. And what if like somebody tries to insert like their material, kind of material desires or perverted ideas inside, and try to like justify it as like their coping mechanisms in Krishna? Like there's all these like different groups who are chanting Hare Krishna, but they don't have their proper conclusion. But like, it was like the danger of, let's say, like, okay, I'm coming to the temple and I don't really like necessarily the rules and regulations, but I like chanting Hare Krishna, and so there's this other group, they chant Hare Krishna, but they allow all these other things. So.
Yeah. Well, yeah, like Srila Prabhupada, he said that nowadays, he said that one should understand the Bhagavatam from a devotee, not from non-devotees or Mayavadis. And he said that nowadays there's many Mayavadis who are giving Bhagavatam classes in Vrindavan. And people show up in large crowds as a spiritual fashion. Prabhupada uses that word, spiritual fashion, to hear these people. But neither the speakers cannot benefit these people because they're not devotees. So similarly, I mean, people may, in as a spiritual fashion, they may take shelter of kirtan. And of course, it's Krishna's name, there is benefit there. But if the leaders aren't pure, and if they're not, if they're just doing it as a form of entertainment or something like that, then yeah, I mean, there is some benefit, and it's a step in the right direction in a sense. But it's not really under the category of taking shelter. And we see that such people cannot remain in Krishna consciousness. That right after that kirtan, they just continue in their materialistic with their materialistic life, and therefore such a thing is called what is it like? It's like shadow ecstasy. It's not the substance. It's not the real thing. It's a shadow, and they get that from associating with devotees in a kirtan or something like that. But in order to get the real thing, they have to, follow strictly and take shelter of kirtan that way. So there definitely shouldn't be any mixing. I mean, if one wants to be successful. So, okay, go on.
Krishna. Every time I think about the Titanic, it reminds me of someone.
Start to cry. I'm sorry.
Huh? Yeah, that was one of my patients.
Oh yeah, that's true. I remember that.
We would put them in, the living room, and there was this tall, big, Texan guy. And every time he would hear that flute, the Titanic, he would start crying. But every
soft-hearted man, huh?
Yeah, every time I think about the Titanic, it reminds me of someone said before boarding the ship, challenged God, Not even God himself can sink this ship.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then Krishna took care of it.
Yeah. Yeah, it's quite a claim, huh? Not even God could sink this ship. It's just, I don't know why someone would claim that. I mean, it's just yeah. They don't understand the power of God. It's like a small ship. Yeah, I mean, sometimes they make these videos where it's like there's a person laying on the grass, and then it zooms out, up and zoom, then you see, you gradually lose sight of the person, and then you're going up in the sky, and then keep on going, and then you're in space, and you see the world, and it's getting smaller, and then it just disappears into the cosmos. You're just there, and then they go all the way back down to Earth, and then to that person's eyeball. It goes into the DNA and everything. It's like a whole. So it's making the point. It's just, how small, are we? I mean, Prabhupada talked about that too with Tamal Krishna Goswami. That whole thing. So, all right. Any Vijay, Krishna, Das, or Tapas? Do you have a question, Tapas? Tapas is really going to Bangladesh, huh? Okay. He's busy. Okay. Grantrad Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai.